Hello, hello everyone. How's everyone doing? Good morning. Thank you so much for being early. Yes, we have about 3-4 minutes more to go before we start our virtual workshop proper. So, ladies and gentlemen, maybe you can just type in the group chat. Just type in the Zoom chat. What did you have for breakfast today? Yep, for me, I had like chicken wrap. Yeah, made by the very nice organizer. Yeah, it's just so awesome. My goodness, handmade. Yeah, so what did you have for breakfast today? Yes, okay, so let's type in the chat. All right, hello. Okay, I see now. Zishan says croissant. Oh, that's a very yummy breakfast. What about the rest? I just had chicken wrap. It was really good, and plain water. Yep. I would love like a cup of coffee or tea, like from Starbucks or something, or from downstairs. Those kind of coffee shop. Coffee that's really good, right? Okay, so yes, we have Yongxuan from Yongxuan says croissant with tuna, Wayne donut, Daphne curry and toast. Oh my gosh, Nelly, oh no, I haven't eaten. So sad. Cation have not eaten yet. Yeah, Tanisha says waiting for my Starbucks to arrive. Tanisha, yeah. So for everyone, please remember to set your chat, the 2TO, right? TO2 to everyone, okay, to everyone. Unless you have a private message that you want to let us know, but otherwise you can set to everyone so everyone can see what is it that you are typing in, that you are asking, etc. All right, so make sure it's set to everyone. So yes, oh no, quite a number of you have not eaten yet. Trisha says have not eaten. Krishna, Purvi with an apple, that sounds delicious. Aryan, I'm fasting. Oh yes, that's right. To all our Muslim friends, thank you so much, yeah, for being here, with no food in your tummy. Quite a number of you have not eaten yet, unable to eat as well. But don't worry, we are going to fill you in terms of your brains. Yeah, we're going to give you brain food instead of stomach food today, right? So we are going to start in just about 1 more minute's time as we wait for more participants to come in. So, okay, let's see. Any more other entries? Yeah, we have quite a number of people here already. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you all so much for spending your Saturdays with us, your Saturday morning. In fact, it's a very precious time. You could be sleeping in because it's so nice to sleep in, right? Yeah, I know. I've been there before. Yep. So, but today you are here with us, and it's just so wonderful to see so many young filmmakers over here trying to improve yourselves, to upgrade yourselves, to join this competition, and maybe win some awards. You never know. So, for those of you who really win awards, right? You know what? It's going to kickstart your career as a filmmaker for sure. Now, but if you're not going to be winning any awards, well, there's only that top few people who can win awards, right? I feel you, but don't worry about it because you are a filmmaker with or without awards, with or without those trophies. Yeah, you are a filmmaker already, okay? So all we need to do is just keep on making films that matter to us, to you, to the society, to community. Okay, so it's 10 a.m. already, everyone. If you are here, you are ready, okay? Can you please type in R for ready? Type in R for ready. R for ready, okay? Type in R. Yes, R. Wow, I see the chat is like so many R's. Welcome everyone to the virtual videography workshop, which is proudly organized as part of the DrugFreeSG Video Competition 2022. So this workshop and competition are organized by Central Narcotics Bureau, or otherwise formerly known as CNB. My name is Shannon, your host for today's workshop. So here are some key takeaways that we hope you and your team get to achieve from participating in this competition. There are some ground rules to this workshop. So first of all, please keep your cameras on whenever possible. Can we please get your cameras to be on? Yeah, let me see your beautiful faces. Yes, please on them. Thank you. Yes, continue to just on them. Leave them on for the entire duration. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah. And keep your microphone muted. Later on during the question and answer segment, yeah, we will let you raise hand, okay? You can type in your questions in the chat box and then we will let you know to unmute yourself. There will also be a QR code that will lead you to the feedback form for this workshop. And please help us key your feedback after each segment of the workshop where your information received is still fresh in your mind. So the time now is about 10:02 a.m. already. What can you expect from this workshop? Well, you will receive many useful tips and advice for your journey as a filmmaker. You will learn about the harmful effects of drugs. Get your burning questions about filmmaking and drugs answered by professionals, experts in the production industry. So let me quickly run through the workshop program for today. Our first speaker is Mr. Jerome Seal, who will be sharing on the technical filming process. Our second speaker is Mr. Idrus Shaban from CNB, who will be sharing with all of you some very important information on drugs and drug abuse. Last but not least, we have Mr. Ng Ding Jie, or otherwise also known as DJ, who will give you some very important tips on how to create a story with an impact. So at the end of each speaker segment, we will be conducting a quick Q&A session for all of you to ask your burning questions and to get up close and personal with our speakers. I would like to remind all of you of some important rules and regulations of the competition too. There are two categories that you can choose from. Category 1 is for youths aged between 12 years old to 16 years old. 12 to 16. If you're in Cat 1, can you please type 1? If you're in Cat 1, you're between 12 years old to 16 years old, type in 1, type in 1. Yes, okay, let me see. Yep, okay, type in 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Yes, in, could people type on? No. cannot, I cannot really see. Yeah, okay. So category 2, that means you must be in category 2 for young adults between 17 years old to 25 years old. If you're in Cat 2, please type in 2 for category 2, okay? Yeah, I'm in Cat 1 actually. Yeah, 12 years old, 16 years old. Cannot tell, right? Kidding. The theme for category 1 is Dare to Care. And the theme for category 2 is Stronger Together. So remember that the deadline for your entry submission is 29th July, 2359 hours on a Friday. So you are to submit 3 very important things. The first of all is, of course, your video, right? No video, no talk. It should come as a YouTube link uploaded on the microsite during submission or via email info@drugfreesg.com. The second thing that you need to submit is your registration form. Please make sure that all the details in the forms are filled. And thirdly is the feedback form for all of your team members. So if you have 5 team members, you need to submit 5 feedback forms. 3 team members, 3 feedback forms. Easy peasy, right? I also like to take this opportunity to highlight that there are content production safe management measures which all of you will have to adhere to during filming. So for more information on the latest SMM, right, the safety management measures, please scan this QR code right now to view more information. I'll give you 5 seconds. Take out your phone right now, okay? Scan this QR code right here. Yep. Quickly, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, great job, everyone. Before we start the workshop proper, let's take a look at category 1, winning entry of last year's competition.
All my life, I ran from the world. I found multiple escapes, though they were almost never good. It got me banished, abandoned and cast aside by everyone. And when all else was against me, one stayed. It wasn't easy, but he never gave up. Neither did I. And soon, I was back, doing well in my life. And that's my story.
Wow, the video is so inspiring, right? So how do you create such a video? Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker for today, Mr. Jerome Seal. Jerome is a graduate from the NTU School of Art, Design and Media with honors in digital animation. With more than 12 years of experience as a multidisciplinary artist, he has the technical skills and the know-how in the aspects of pre-production, production, and post-production. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me to type in J to welcome Mr. Jerome Seal. Type in J, 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 J. That's right.
Hi everybody, and thank you for having me here. I'll be running through the technical video process for all of you all. And this will cover things like pre-production, production, and post-production, which are unfamiliar terms maybe, but I will definitely run through until you understand them, right? So moving on. One of the parts of pre-production, or rather, what's this term? Before the production, right? Pre-production. So before that, we actually have a lot of planning to do. So the first stage, and something important to understand, is storyboarding and concept development. And that will be further developed by, or rather further spoken by our next speaker later on. Okay, so crew. Once again, if these terms are unfamiliar to you, I will try to break them down. What is the director, right? So the director, let's say, will be the person that will control the vision of the entire film. The producer will be the person organizing everything. So if you have a team, and I assume that all of you are going to form teams, right? You get the most organized person to be the producer, right? Then you get the person with the loudest mouth to be the director. That's kind of halfway there. Okay, so camera operator will be the person, for obvious reasons, operating your camera, right? So someone with a good eye, try to spot for all the funny mistakes along the way. The sound man will be the person that purely focuses on sound, right? So what happens is that when they are doing the sound recording, you will be like listening out for funny things like birds chirping in the background, some MRT, something just broke down, or some explosion somewhere, right? Why is this important? Because if you have funny sounds in the background, it might be more difficult for you to edit later on. Because can you imagine like you're just like walking in the park, and then like next thing behind you has some explosion sounds, and then suddenly you have to cut to somebody else talking. There will be a very, very strange disconnect. So the sound person's job is very important as well to keep, make sure that there are no very strange interferences. After that, we have the grip, which is, I mean, it's a technical term, but it's pretty much the person who lays out all the equipment and has a good understanding of that, and the lighting crew. I understand also that these are all very technical, right? I don't expect all of you to be able to do this. So some of you may have multiple roles. Some of the critical ones I'll tell you is that The producer is very, very important. Director, very, very important. Cameraman, very, very important. The rest, you can kind of share the role to some degree. Depends on how much manpower you have. Okay. So, defining your cast. First and foremost, I mean, we all have a theme. Today we have a theme, that's why we're here. But you still need to kind of create a genre around it, right? So let's say we're talking about drugs now. You can even talk about like action drugs, like people fight, then take all these drugs, like or love or crime and so on and so forth. But it's good to have a theme when you're planning your things so that you have some form of continuity. Okay, another bunch of very technical things here. These are talent release forms, location forms, short lists, shoot schedule, and budget breakdown. What are these? In a simple understanding, talent release forms are given to your actors, right? So this is to get consent. This is to get consent from them. That means that I'm not going to film you now. Then later on, I go and post it up on whichever competition, and then say, "Hey, I didn't allow you to send my face for competition." And they challenge you for your film, right? This is a bit of a problem. So sometimes it's good to have this talent release forms so that they'll sign it off. They say, "Yeah, okay, I give it to you," right? Location release forms, same thing, but for location. Shortlist will be when you're doing your planning phase, which our great DJ will be like talking to you about later on. You can already start to plan your shortlist, meaning that it makes sense to shoot everything in a certain location at the same time, right? So maybe you're at a coffee shop, then you're at home, then another part of the coffee shop, then you're at home. You don't go one at a time, right? You group them together and then you have this shortlist whereby you shoot everything at home first, everything downstairs. Because actually filmmaking is really pretty much like a problem-solving process throughout the whole way, right? Last but not least, we have budget breakdown. Plan and think how much you want to spend. Because sometimes when you get a location, you might have to pay them a little bit of money to go and use the space or get them to sign the form. You might have to pay them something. Be prepared for this. Although as youngsters and fresh filmmakers, try to save your money, right? So get whatever connections you have, but be prepared that there may be some cost involved. Okay, so even more technical, the camera, sound, and light. Okay, so the type of cameras that you may have seen, the most common one, point and shoot cameras, the tiny little ones, right? I think if you're using that, you can also use your phone, right? It's around the same level, right? Then you have your DSLR. What's the benefit of that? If you have some budget, if you have some hobbies or some friends, you can change your lenses. And this affects the look of your film very much, right? Next, we have mirrorless. There's just a variation. It's slightly smaller, but same. You can change your lenses, which is very good. And last but not least, phones. So phones and compact camera, I rank them the same, right? Because these days the phones are very, very good already, right? So these are just an introduction. Okay, here you can see exactly what I'm talking about just now, right? We have the compact cameras, the small ones, DSLRs, mirrorless. So DSLR is slightly heavier because the body is bigger. And then last but not least, phones. In this case, I see a big cross on the vertical, So all these Instagrammers, story people, TikTok people, right? Unfortunately, I think for this competition, we have to keep it in a certain format so that it's consistent throughout. But outside for your personal work, I think that modern day filmmakers, it's quite common to do a vertical rate. But there's a cross here, so listen. All right. Okay, so audio. Audio is something that I spoke about just now. We need a sound person. In your case, you may not have that luxury. You may have to use the mic from your phone or the mic from your camera, and so on and so forth. I think that if worse comes to worse, you can try to do a dubbing, meaning that you record everything already, and if the sound is too terrible, get your friend to come back and then just re-record over. It takes a bit of practice and skill, but it's case by case. But anyway, just to introduce you what kind of mics there are, we have a shotgun mic, which is something that is like long. Actually, do we have? Right. Yeah. So shotgun mics will be something on the left. These are directional, meaning that when you point at something, you can hear in that area because the wavelength. It doesn't capture such a wide range. Then lavaliers, which will be things that you pin on your body, right? You can hide it in your clothes. Not super appropriate for if you're trying to make a short film, but it's up to you. Depends on what you have, right? Then we have the audio recorders. Again, these are mid-pro level stuff. So it could cost a bit of money. If you can, use it. If you don't, just go on your camera, it's fine. Windshields, these are things like just to prevent, the wind that's blowing by, so that your mic don't like that, right? So that's what the windshield is. All right. Lights. Okay, once again, these are really technical. So we will move on to the next slide so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so open face lights. It is just what it is. It's like a light bulb there with a big box around it that projects light out. And then the next one is HMI, which has a very complicated name, but basically it's similar to the first one with a little light, and it's built differently. I wouldn't recommend inexperienced people or people without guidance to use this tool. The reason is because it's very big, it's very heavy, it takes a bit of technical skill, and it's very hot, meaning that physically hot. So if I put it down there for a short while, you might end up, if you're not experienced, you don't have your gloves and so on and so forth, you might burn yourself when you're working. Okay, so I would not recommend these two for the start. If you have experience or if you have someone to guide you, go ahead. The benefits of this is that it's very, very bright. If you see the photographs below, these lights can really go to represent the sun, kind of bright, right? Next one, last, is something that you might be more familiar with. All the YouTubers are using these days is LED lights. Much smaller, much lighter, and quite bright, right? And last but not least is the fluorescent. These are your tubes, your light tubes. I don't know whether your age group actually sees it anymore, but there's some pros and cons to it. Pro is that it's very big and it's very even. Cons is that if you don't use a high quality one, you can have flickering when you're recording. So end of the day, use what you have. If you have a table lamp, just when you're recording, pay attention to flickering, right? So when you're using your camera, you're looking at it, then suddenly, why is it blinking over there? It's because your light may have a different frequency as your camera, right? Okay, so lighting your camera, this is when you're actually shooting already. This is what we call a key light. If you look at the diagram on the left, the key light is pretty much a bright light, the main source, the main light that is shining on your character, right? Decide how you want to do that, make them as pretty and handsome as they can, and then we can add something else. This is the rim light. What is the purpose of a rim light? Looking at the diagram again, if this is the key light, the rim light is something at the back. The purpose is to carve out, or rather, you see, you put a little bit of light on the background so that your subject can be separated from the background. Last but not least, we have one more, which is the fill light. That's the one that's kind of in between. Let's say this light was here and then the shadows is too dark. You want to put a little bit of something here just to make them a bit brighter. As you are filming, you start to notice that you're playing with the whole space. Lighting is not exactly just these 3 points or so on and so forth. It could be like a lamp in the background. It could be like, even a handphone in front of your face to make your face like you're reading something or you're watching TV, this kind of stuff. So lighting, you have to take a look at the camera and make sure that you put the appropriate lights where you need it. This is just a guide, right? Okay, other matters, locations, permits, weather, meals, transport, right? I think these are common courtesies to some degree. So if whatever makes sense to you, you should do it. But just to clarify a little bit, just now you were mentioning talent release forms, location release forms. So these kind of things, as a budding filmmaker, sometimes you will try to push your luck, but I will say that where possible, try to ask for permission or check whether you can do it there. Because you never know when you're filming something and then it's private property and someone's not happy with you, right? Meals and transport, this one is obvious. Actually, not that obvious, but try to take care of your crew, right? If not, they will. A happy crew is a happy filming experience, right? And last but not least, weather conditions. This one, hard to predict, but everybody has a phone, everybody has Google, everybody has the internet. So try your best to be smart about things. Right. So the starting part, we're talking about pre-production, means the planning before we shoot. Production will be the actual making of everything. And last but not least is the post-production, means after your production. What do we do with it? We're handling the footage, right? So let's see what's going on. Okay. When we're talking about editing, depends on what computer you use. I don't know if you're using a Mac or a PC or what. There are options for you, right? These are free options. At the end of the day, your storytelling is more important. Then, editing is important as well, but get your story right. Any of these are actually good enough for what you need to do. These are the slightly more professional software whereby you need to pay money for, right? If you have them, very good. But I'll tell you that as a starting filmmaker, you have two options, right? You have the free option, which is very, everything is very friendly for everybody to use. The professional options tend to be a little bit more difficult. You need to practice and learn how to use it. So it's a bit slower, but you have more control. Right, assembly and label. This actually should be part of your initial start. Remember, just now I mentioned something called the short list, right? So you actually should print out at the start already, oh, I'm going to shoot everything like this. I'm going to shoot everything like this. And when we do a storyboard, we also know the sequence of how everything will be edited to some degree later on, right? So assembling and labeling, organization is key, right? Make sure that, okay, backgrounds are all here. Let's say shot 1, day 1, all here. Part of the story progression, this is act 1. This is the start of it. This is act 2. This is the main body. This act 3 is the conclusion and so forth. Gather your clips together. Keep it organized so you don't get lost. One more thing is that some people like to use many cameras. For whatever reasons, maybe they scared they missed a shot or something like that. That also needs planning in terms of how to use. I would recommend for people who are inexperienced to just stick to one camera so that all your shots are sequential. And then if you can, and if you remember, have an assistant there. So when you're shooting, let's say I shoot the first round, then okay, shot 1. Not so good. Let's do again. Shot 2, shot 1, take 2. Better. Shot 1, take 3. Very good. Write it down, and then you can immediately tick it off and say, oh, this is the one I'm going to use later on. Editor has the choice to change if they want to, but it's good to keep yourself organized, and the more you plan, the more organized you are, the better you'll be. Okay, so the start of it, as we were mentioning, is just organizing, right? So everything's like, oh, this one belongs to the start. This is the main body. This is the end product. This is the result. This is the result, right? It is good when you're starting off editing just to throw your clips in, get a rough feel and the flow. People ask me, say, hey, how about music? How about sound effects? All this, step at a time, right? We do a rough cut, put it everything, watch one time, and make sure that the story makes sense. If the person comes in from this door, it comes out from that side, so on and so forth, right? Make sense first. Then you start to trim in, oh, maybe I want a bit more faster at the start. Oh, a bit slower here to, it's more point of emphasis. And then after that, right, at the end, say that, oh, crescendo, add a lot of music, add a lot of fast cuts, add a lot of epic thing, then best film in the world, right? That's the process. Okay, audio editing software. Again, very specialist tools. I would say that with your video editing program at your level, you can handle most of your audio post-production already. If you really want to bring it to the next level and compose your own stuff, then these are some of the stuff you can explore. Right, sound. So in terms of sound effects, I'll tell you that you can find all of them online, right? Type in all your royalty-free sound effects and so on and so forth. Something like walking and punching. But at the end of the day, if you cannot find this kind of stuff, what you can do is you can record it yourself. If something needs a, right, put the mic there, slam a door, take your fridge, open and close your fridge, the kind of sounds a bit like a car, right? Go and experiment and have fun with this if you need it. Ambient sounds and so on and so forth, you can go on site, just record 1 or 2 minutes of the background, just in case you need to plug a hole, and so on and so forth, right? I think that's about it. Thank you very much. I will hand you back to our wonderful presenter, Shannon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jerome. That was really informative, right? I hope all of you had some really good insights from what he shared earlier on. So we will now open up the Q&A session for you to ask questions to Mr. Jerome Seal. Now, if you do not have any questions at all, you can take a short break actually, but come back at around say 10:55 sharp for the next speaker. But I would highly encourage you to just stay on to hear, what are the questions people may ask and of course the answers to it. So any questions? Any questions? Let me check over here. Okay, yes. Jess is asking, will the recording be shared? Yes, recording will be shared actually. Yeah, so let's actually type into everyone. Yeah, because now we're actually doing direct messaging accidentally. Yes, everyone. Yes. Any questions if you have any questions? To ask any questions, okay, if you have any, like get up close and personal with Mr. Jerome over here because it's not every day that you actually get a filmmaker right here with all of us as well, and he's definitely a really good expert in what he does. And let's see, okay, no, I think let's scroll down. And yes, I think I see something. Yep. Yes, Jerome. Okay, why so many technical stuff? No money, no enough.
Okay, so as I was saying just now, we were sharing with you what the professionals use, but what you have is the best tool, right? The most important thing is availability, right? Borrow from your friends or whatever. End of the day, if you go and watch Apple advertisements, right, they are now telling you, say they can make a whole feature film with your phone. I wouldn't say that that's the best way of doing things, but if that's what you have, then you use what you have.
Yep, exactly. Actually, I personally also do some, okay, I won't say filmmaking lah, Jerome, yeah. Cannot, it's like, with the expert over here, yeah, mine would be just a really small little peanut, right? So I do YouTube videos as well, and I actually have shot a little mini short film for one of my assignments before too, using just my smartphone. Yeah, exactly. So use what you have is the cheapest. Yep. So CapCut is good if you edit on phone. Yes, thank you so much, Ariel. What free video editing software again? Yep. Better to type the name. Answer. Okay. Any free video editing software, Jerome, that you want to share?
So with all this social media and all that kind of stuff, right? Actually, it's been on for a long time already, but most of your systems will have its own editing software, meaning that if you are using Windows, you have Windows Movie Maker. If you're having an Apple computer, you have iMovie, and these are actually sufficient for what you need. Then last but not least, we actually did share with you all another one called Filmora. So that's one of the common ones that are online that you can just download and use. There's a so-called paid version, but I think that the basics fine.
Yeah, I think Filmora actually has a watermark for the free version as well, but it's really affordable too. So I think a lot of people are actually sharing what they use personally and what they recommend. So it's really good. Like I love this community of people over here, right? You're just sharing your information, your knowledge around as well. So yes, let's see. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? You can feel free to ask any questions. If the video has a watermark, it won't affect anything, right? How will it go for the competition? Let's see. Oh, okay. It's good. Yeah, I think actually you can also type it, email in. Okay, if let's say there are technical questions, right? You need to really get more detailed information about. You can also email in to our email address. Okay, which is info@drugfreesg.com. Yes, info@drugfreesg.com. Okay, and they will answer you as well. Okay, let's go down a little bit.
So one of the items that is set over here is DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, okay, let's go down a little bit more.
Right?
Yeah.
So DaVinci Resolve. So that is actually considered a professional software. There's the free version, which is extremely good already. And there is a so-called paid version, which unlocks a few more effects. I would say that if you are very adventurous, you can try. But if you have a timeline and there's a bit of a learning curve, then actually the free software in your computer is much easier to understand, right? DaVinci is much more powerful, but it takes a bit of learning time.
Yeah, I personally cannot understand DaVinci. I played around with it and I use Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro as well, but DaVinci, I'm like, oh, I'm pulling my head out. Okay, so any other questions? Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, Filmora is actually really good for beginners too because it's relatively user friendly. Yeah, so it's just that yeah, the watermark will just make your whole watching experience, you know, feel a little bit, oh, like I want to get rid of that watermark over there. Yeah. So, but for Filmora X, yeah, Filmora X is actually quite affordable. I would say it's a one-time fee of like maybe $100 Sing or even slightly lesser. So compared to like Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, that's like a huge difference. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Keep your questions coming. Can use Mac DeMarco music inside our films? Ooh.
Sorry, I think I'm a bit old. I never heard of this Mac DeMarco. But what I'll talk about music, right, is that whenever you're searching for music, you should actually type in royalty free, or when you are trying to look at stuff that time, make sure that there are licensing terms and conditions and they allow you to use, especially these days because YouTube is trying to promote and support content creators. YouTube itself has its own libraries and so on and so forth that will give you music, sound effects, and so on and so forth. So just be sure to read the fine print when they tell you about licensing. Say, oh, okay, you need to pay for something like that. If not, just type in royalty free and you can use those kind of stuff.
Yeah, so royalty free is very important because you also don't want to get your videos like either banned or something, you know, from YouTube or from other social media. You don't want to get into any licensing issues, yeah, with the creators themselves. Okay, good questions. Keep it coming.
Oh yeah, and one more thing was that with all these smart engines, right? If you do use so-called pop music or any other music that you hear on the radio and so on and so forth, and you didn't pay for this licensing, what happens is that as as young people, they may not sue you, but most of the time, if you post it on YouTube or you post it on Facebook or whatever, immediately their system will sense that it's something that has royalty and they'll just take down your post, right? So, I mean, to avoid these kind of things, we just try to use things that are royalty free.
Yep, very good point. Very good point. Any other questions? Let your questions come in. Wow, everyone's like experts, you know, Jerome. Yeah, good questions there. Or they're like, oh no, I don't know what to ask. There's too much information that I have already from you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, must films be in 1080p and above? Yes, minimum 1080p lah, right? HD, okay, HD. Okay, good questions, good questions. Keep it coming, everyone. Yep.
Just a point also, right? So when you're recording, let's say with your phone or your camera, they will have default settings. Nowadays, 1080p is like the default standard. How about things like 4K, 6K, even 8K? If you have the kind of technology or money to rent these cameras, I personally don't recommend it simply because, again, you're budding filmmakers. The more heavy your file is, the more difficult it is to edit because the file size will be very, very big. So if you're recording in HD, a 2-minute clip may be, let's say, 500 megabytes, right? A 4K clip will be something like 2 or 3 gigabytes. So when you're working, your computer will become very taxed and it'll be very slow. So I would recommend you all to stick to the defaults or whatever is recommended as your 1080p.
How about let's say in the phone now? Because now our phone can record 4K as well. So called 4K. Is it real 4K or maybe not real 4K?
This is a technical question. So resolution wise, yes, 4K. But it is up to you. In my opinion, I think that the higher resolution that you use, you must be prepared to have like more data. It's going to slow down your process and so on and so forth.
So the key point is, can your computer actually support your video files? Yeah, if you have a really old, slow computer, then you might want to shoot a lower resolution. Am I right, Jerome?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, but if you have the latest, you know, like, wow, high-end tech, computer, laptop, then yeah, go ahead and try with 4K, right? So thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions that you may have? Yes, Yongxuan is asking, do you use classical music by composers who have been dead for over 100 years? That's a bit like the royalty stuff as well, right?
Okay, your answer is most of the time, yes, right? Because it's over already. So if you take a look at the licensing agreements, a lot of the older classic compositions are free for use. But again, it is better to Google because Google is your best friend, right? So Google and then check whether or not you can use it or not. But most of the time, classic old ones can.
Cool. Okay, great question. Mozart is still alive. Still alive in our hearts. Yeah, because his music lives on, right? Okay, any other questions? Really, really good questions that you guys have. Yeah, so please feel free to ask. There is really no silly questions per se. Yeah, we just really want to help you out as much as possible so you can get your film up and ready. Yeah, for the competition. It is so exciting, I tell you. There's a lot of work to be done, yeah, especially the pre-production, right? All your planning, what should you use, what should you do, short list. I think short list is really important. It really helped me a lot when I was doing my own film as well. Yeah, so do remember to put a lot of time in your short list. Yeah, and your I forgot what's the thing called? The after short list, right? Then you need to do the filming, the schedule sheet. What's that called again? I forgot.
The filming one.
On the day of the filming, you need to have that's the short list, right?
Yeah, you can use for
storyboard. Yeah, so storyboarding, and then for your short list, yeah, those are very, very important. So which we will be talking about later on, right? In our third speaker, for our third speaker. So if our film is selected, will it be broadcast on TV? Unfortunately, no, but it will be on YouTube. Yeah, in DrugFreeSG's YouTube channel, and it's gonna be really exciting. Yeah, because you definitely can share everyone to see. Yep. So that's on CNB's platforms. Yep, really awesome. And yep, so good question, good question. Yep. If you want to broadcast on TV, maybe you liaise with the TV stations. Yeah, let us know. How is it? Okay, any questions? Any other questions that you may have for Jerome over here before we go for a quick break? Yep. Last question, maybe one last final question before we go for a quick break. Everyone's so expert level already. When I started, wow, it was like, oh, what did we do? How did we get through this? Okay, maybe let me ask you a question, Jerome. So, how long do you take to actually plan for a film, and then shoot the film, and then edit? Yeah, roughly.
Okay, so it depends on how efficient you are as well, right? So let's say to set up your story and everything, let's say you take a week, right? Just the basics. Then after you have to go and continually refine it. Then after that, once you know who your rough cast and crew is, gathering a crew takes time. The actual shooting is the shortest of the whole process, right? So your pre-production, the more you plan, the faster you will end up with your end product. So the pre-production is the time that you should spend the most amount of time. The actual filming itself may only take, let's say, 2 days, depends on how long your film is. In this case, I think it can be done in about two days max or 3 days. And then the post-production depends on how often you argue with your director, right? Right? So if you just put it out there, let's say you planned your storyboard extremely well. So you actually shot very tight, meaning that you only shot what you needed. Then when your editing is really fast because you just paste, okay, I shot this thing, then put, correct order, and we're done. Right? So editing could be pretty fast as well. Depends on how well you planned. I would say spend the most amount of time you have in your pre-production. The production itself will come with it, and post-production will flow.
Wow. Okay. So maximum amount of time is really during the pre-production, the planning stage. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So you've heard of that quote before. So really plan, and then shooting. Finally, the editing, post-production will be a breeze. Thank you so much, Jerome. Can we all just type in TY? Thank you to Jerome. Type in TY to thank Jerome. Thank you. Thank you guys for being so participative. Love you guys. Love y'all. So we are going to have a QR code right over here please scan the QR code and help us to submit your feedback form for this portion of the workshop over here. Okay, so this is the QR code. Yes, okay, please help us to scan it. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go for a short break right now. You need to just stretch yourself, or you need to go for a quick bite, or coffee, grab some coffee or tea. Be back by 10:55 a.m. 10:55 a.m. All right, so I'll see all of you in a short time. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. I hope all of you have enjoyed your little break and just stretch yourself. You're awake now. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are back and you're a little bit more alert, please type A for awake and alert. Type A. Let's see you guys typing A, please. If you are back. Hey, okay, I see it coming. Great. Thank you so much for being so participative. I love it. Thank you all so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome our second speaker, who is none other than Mr. Idrus from CNB. Mr. Idrus is actually an enforcement officer from CNB with 25 years of experience already. He will be sharing with all of you some of the most commonly abused drugs and their harms. You definitely don't want to miss this, because this can greatly impact your storyline. So please help me to type in I for Mr. Idrus. I for Mr. Idrus. Welcome, Mr. Idrus.
Right. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for the awesome introduction. Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, actually good Saturday morning, right, to all young filmmakers out there. Right. Congratulations. By being here, you'll be able to understand the harmful effect and the dire effect of substance abuse. So this is in line with the video that the video theme that you need to produce, and you, in a way that you need to understand what are the things that you need to understand about drug itself, right? So I will start my presentation now, right? The first one will be this, all right, controlled substance. What is controlled substance? Controlled drug or controlled substance, it is basically used to induce psychoactive effect to a person, right? Basically, it's when a person induces or abuses or consume drugs, the person will experience high or stone or many other words out there, but basically it's something that they are inducing, they are consuming, which is illegal. So it is never easy. So basically it's never easy to break away from drugs, because people who has taken drug itself, I've seen many abuses, and like very good example that when I was a young officer, 26 years back, I remember sending just one particular guy into the RC. But recently, about a month back, I sent him again into the RC again. So it just to show that how illicit drugs, or how drugs makes that person being addicted to it and not be able to get out of it. So basically, controlled drug means it's the person who abuses this will suffer a lot of things, which include withdrawal symptom, which include hallucination. Some people will experience bipolar. So there's many sickness or many ill things that people will experience with regards to drugs. So why do people do drugs? Why some people say, oh, I'll just try one time and then I'll just get the hang of it. Just one particular time. You never, some people say YOLO, right? Remember that? So some people say, okay, try one time, I will never do it again. These are all the dangerous things that people do, and people try to think, right, that they think that, oh, drug abuse is not so addictive, not so powerful enough to control them, but eventually they fall into the prey of drug abuse. All right, I'll go to the next slide, which is the situation in Singapore. Okay, this is situation in Singapore comparing 2021 and 2020. You can see very clearly that the numbers are going However, there are some concerning issues with this, especially on the left side. If you can see, the younger ones are getting arrested more, not more, but no doubt it's getting lesser, but almost 60% of drug abuse arrested in 2021 are below 30 years old, right? So this is an alarming thing because we are trying, as an enforcement officer, we are arresting younger abusers. So that's an alarming one. So why do young people abuse drugs, right? Drugs like methamphetamine, drugs like cannabis, drugs like ecstasy. Why? So there's a reason why do young people do that? Basically, these are the reasons. These are, some people say that I do drugs because I want to escape from reality. I have relationship problem. My parents are always fighting at home. They are going towards divorce, and then they have this relationship problem. The family is not functioning well. So to come out from that problem or to forget that problem, some of them try drugs. Okay, some even fall into the prey of peer pressure. Why peer pressure? The so-called friend that you have or the so-called friend that they have pressure them to do drugs because they want to be together with the particular group. Like say in a group in a school that they always try new things, but suddenly someone, example, try this a new smoking method. Right? It's one of them just come out like a cigarette stick, and then so one of them say, "Oh no, I'm not going to do this." But in the end, they will call, "Oh, you are a chicken," you all this sort of name calling. So to be in the group, right, the particular person will suddenly just try it just one time. I'll see how it happens. So that's also another one, which is the experimentation. Just want to try one time. I'll do this, and how is it? Because as you can, as you know, that the current situation is that we depends on our phone very much, right? We can just like we can do many things, wonderful thing with the handphones, but there are many things also that can be found bad itself. So like example, you know, music, some musics are inclining towards certain kind of drugs. Some movies that you watch also shows a lot of people, a lot of well-known people doing drugs as well. So people get curious, people want to try and just want to experience as well. So another one will be the use susceptibility and misinformation. Again, I would say the mass media, the social media plays an important part. So don't fall into the wrong kind of website or social media. So do be careful on what you Google in the handphones or all the social media platform. Right, I'll move on to the next slide, which is the drug abuse effects and the types of drug itself. Right, as you can see, the effects of drugs are all there: hallucination, violent behavior, poor memory. Must remember that all drugs, different drug give different kind of effects. Example, methamphetamine, ecstasy, methamphetamine or ice or ecstasy are stimulants or uppers, right? They give this the abusers the extra push. That means this is a very, very powerful stimulant. Even in small doses, it increases, okay, meth or ecstasy, it increases the wakefulness and physical activity of the abuser. It increases adrenaline rush and aggressiveness. It pushes the abuser's body further and faster. I can share with you one story that I have. Probably a few years back, I and my team tried to arrest one guy who just abuses meth. Right, when we entered the house, right, there were 3 of them in the house. I remember we managed to subdue or arrest 2 of them, but this one particular guy who's a bit tall and slim start to push everybody. So because they just abused meth. So as a man of authority, we give them warning to surrender, but he refused. So end up, okay, we try our best to arrest him, but end up there was some struggle, and eventually when he was arrested, I can share with you that once the drug is out of the body, he was one of the nicest person that I knew. One of the nicest abuser that I spoke to. So he will say that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to injure you. These are the things that drugs make someone feel. And because they cannot control themselves, that's how bad meth or ice can be. So like example, cannabis. Cannabis is the exact opposite of methamphetamine. This cannabis is actually a downer, right? Which generally makes a person lazy, not doing anything. I can remember this was when I was about 15 years back. I tried to arrest one young guy in a condominium. Right? The condominium was very beautiful, except for this particular boy's room. In order to arrest him, okay, I have to enter his room, full of rubbish. The rubbish was about, probably I can share with you, ankle high of styrofoams, of empty bottles, of packaging, a lot of rubbish inside the house. So basically what cannabis does is actually makes the person lazy, not doing anything, and just think about consuming cannabis. So that's a dangerous part about. And cannabis also makes the person, basically each one of us, we shower every day, but not this fella. He has the worst body odor that I ever smelled before. So he didn't brush his teeth. He didn't comb his hair. All these are all basic cleanliness. It's just out, right? So that's the two kind of drugs that you should understand. All right. Okay, I'll move on to the tough laws that we have in Singapore. Okay, our laws generally is designed to ensure harmful drugs are kept out of reach. Okay, so basically, especially to the youth, okay, it is offense to consume or to take drugs, to sell or to traffic drugs, or to possess drugs. Okay, all these are all chargeable offense. But basically, if a person who been arrested for drug abuse, per this drug abuse case, we will send the person to DRC or drug rehab center to undergo rehabilitation. For the others, probably we have to charge them in court and get them to be sentenced in court. And then, like for example, trafficking cases, basically is will be for a person who sells, send drugs, share drugs. These are all trafficking offenses. So the person will be charged in court. Thereafter, he will be sentenced to a minimum of 5 years and with 5 strokes of the cane. So these are the tough laws that Singapore have to control the drug abuse, right? This one is another important law that we have in Singapore. Under the MDA MDA 1973, it is illegal for us Singaporean and permanent resident to consume drugs overseas. That means we cannot go overseas, even though the country that we visit legalize a certain kind of drugs. Okay, we as Singaporeans are not allowed to do that. Okay, if we do that, we can be guilty of as if we're consuming the said drugs in Singapore. So if you will be detected in Singapore, you will be sent. The person will be sent to DRC to undergo rehabilitation. Another important thing that we want to share is actually when overseas, right? Please be careful with your belongings, right? Do not, right? Especially do not believe any strangers. Like for instance, you are at the airport and someone, overseas airport, someone comes to you and really chat with staying somewhere in example, Bedok, or I have this very good friend who's staying in Pasir Ris. Can you deliver this to him? Don't do that, right? Don't do that. Don't take that particular package, especially those sealed one. Do not do it, okay? Take care of yourself out overseas. Be aware of your surrounding, right? Be aware of especially your luggage. Just make sure that people do not put anything inside, all right? I'll move on to the next slides with is the critical thinking, the long-term thinking, all right? Basically, if a person enters the drug world, basically the addiction is always be there. I have a group of ex-abusers who does a lot of sharing with me and some youth as well. What they say that it's difficult for them, and most of them have this particular group of friends who are also drug abusers. So whenever they meet their old friends, they tend to go back to their old habits, bad habits. So these are the things that abusers find it difficult to come out from. So they will end up taking drugs again, going to DRC again, going to prison again. So it become a norm for them until some of them at the age of, I've seen someone at the age of 75 years old still going into DRC to undergo rehabilitation, right? Next one will be harmful substance found in drugs, right? Drug traffickers are not your friend. They are there to make profit. So most of the drugs are filled with adulterants, filled with unknown substances. One very good example that I can share, methamphetamine or ice, okay? They put in fluorescent tubes or glass just to increase the yield of the weight of the methamphetamine of ice. So it's rather bad that drugs is really bad, and yet with the glass inside, people are abusing it, and then the thing enters the body, right? So the next one, we struggle being arrested. Just imagine this, right? Parents, a father who has been arrested for drugs, okay? What will happen to the mommy? What will happen to the children? I remember this again back when I was a young officer. That particular two children that face was still embedded in my mind. What happened was we raided the house, and then for the father lah. Then we arrested the father, and I personally handcuffed the father. While in handcuff, two small kids, right, came out of the room. I think about 4 and 5, each about 4 and 5. The boys were 4 and 5, grabbed both my legs and said, "Please do not take my daddy away." They were crying out loud. So I as a father myself, I have my son was about that age. I feel so sad, but I still have to do my duties just to make sure that the daddy we have to send to rehabilitation to make him a better person. So these are the things that a person needs to remember about the struggles, about the peoples that leave behind where they were sent to DRC or probably in prison itself. Right. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. You can get more of this information with regards to drugs in our social media platform or social media handles. For instance, if you like CMB's Facebook or Instagram, a lot of videos are in there. A lot of information on drugs, a lot of new operations conducted are posted inside. So you can get a lot of new ideas there as well. Probably I will end here, and we will open the floor to Q&A. Back to Shannon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Idros. That was really informative. Wow, very valuable information on drugs, drug-related stuff. So we are definitely way more aware of these dangers right now. So any questions, everyone? Any questions? Any questions? Let's see. I'm looking at the chat right now. Any questions you have with regards to like the drugs, filming on drugs, whatever. Yep. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Let your questions roll, everyone. Okay. Or still formulating inside your head, like, what should I ask? Any questions? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, no questions. Wow. Okay, do we have to specify what kind of drug it is inside the video?
I think yes, to make it more realism, probably because drug is, the word drug is, it's a big word because in Singapore, there are many drugs. As I said earlier, there are methamphetamine, ice, there are ecstasies, they have ketamine, heroin, cannabis, LSD. So basically, because as I said earlier, different drugs gives different effect. So if you were to give, let's say, you were to portray someone who's a bit drowsy, and then you mention methamphetamine or ice, it is not in line. So the effect is different. So it doesn't create that true effect of the drug itself. So for instance, a person, you were saying in the introduction, I've been taking meth, but down there you are sleeping, or you are you are stoned as if the person is doing cannabis. So it's the exact opposite. So yeah, it's just a very good question. Very good question. So I've just explained to you the different kind of drugs that a person consume will have different effect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a really good question. Yeah, they really brought out a lot of nice, good questions, nice answers as well, because it's important for your film, right? Yeah. So, in your opinion, what do you think is the main reason on why people consume drugs nowadays? So we can have a thought in our film.
So basically, the main reason why, okay, to answer this question, the main reason why young people, we will see young people, yeah, it's actually basically it's number one, boredom, peer pressure. First is peer pressure. Number two is boredom. So they always, and also experimentation. So basically, a person who want to be in a group, right? That just what I described just now, right? Start to have party at home. Usually you are playing games, right? And probably they were used to smoking, and then this example, three guys playing games, and they are playing game and smoking is no longer a thrill. Then suddenly one of the guys bring out something very funny, look like nothing that they have been smoking before. So it's curiosity, it's peer pressure. So these are the things that people or youth will fall into the prey of. Okay, I hope I answered that questions.
Thank you. And what drugs tend to make a person aggressive?
Okay, that's in fact there's affect all drugs makes a person aggressive, but the most instant one, that means the person takes, which is methamphetamine or ecstasy. Both are stimulants. Okay, they both are stimulant. Even as I said earlier, in small doses. Once someone smokes it, they became the opposite of what they are. Usually, they are a very quiet person. They become talkative. If the person, like for instance, I've seen someone who becomes very aggressive, right? Very aggressive. They don't take orders. They don't take instruction. They will become. They want to do something. Like for instance, I can remember this case that I have. This guy was smoking. He knew that he was taking meth, right? He has abused meth. Then we came to the house to arrest him. He was staying at the third floor, right? Instead of surrendering to us, he scaled down the flat. So how dangerous that can be? If it's third floor, probably if he fell, he could have some injuries. But just imagine 19th floor, 30th floor. So how dangerous can it be? Because they cannot control themselves. So to answer that question, all drugs create the dangers of it, because they don't. The thing is because they don't want to get arrested, and then sometimes they will have hallucination. So this hallucination will always creep in their mind that people want to arrest me. Things like walking in the MRT station, right? Once the hallucination kicks in, when the drugs, the hallucination part kicks in, like for instance, walking in MRT, the transcom, the police officer wearing the gray beret, right? They are always in MRT to make it safe, right? But the technician, MRT technician, also wear the same color blue. So some of them are so scared of that and then start running away. These are all the hallucination apart on methamphetamine. To answer your question, aggressive, it is meth is number one. Number two will be ecstasy. Okay, Shannon.
Wow, thank you so much. Very informative. So for a first timer, taking drugs, right? How would they react to that?
How would a person react when they take? The person, okay, basically what I understand from abusers that I have, the first timer usually either they like the thing or they hate the thing. The problem here is if they like the feeling that the drug gave, and then that's not the first time. So it will be the many times. Addiction is actually the first person tried this particular boy, example, the boy A took drugs first time. Then technically he enjoyed the feeling. Then he said, "Hey, how come nobody come and arrest me? Nobody knocks my door. CMB don't knock my door. What then nothing happens. Then he'll say, nothing happens. I'll try again. The next month he tried again. Again, nothing happens. Then suddenly, not knowingly, it becomes once a week. Then after that, twice a week. Then eventually it becomes every day. That's addiction, right? So the first, to answer this question, usually they react either they will enjoy it or they don't enjoy it. If for instance they didn't enjoy it, lucky enough they will not be addicted to it. So again, it is an offense even to try, right? Even to try, and they don't like it. Like for instance, they tried the first time and they don't like it, and then suddenly they went down. CMB officers downstairs or police officers stopped them, and they got arrested. Okay, for that they will also be sent to the RC to undergo rehabilitation. Okay, all right. I hope I answered that question, Shannon.
Right, cool. So do people who take drugs often relapse even after rehabilitation?
Do people? Yes, they do. It all depends on the society and the family members that they have, right? What I understand, and the ex-abuser that I have, the people that I meet, the abusers that arrest, the abusers that I speak to, some of them relapse because they don't have the trust among the family members. That's quite sad because some cited that a very good example. One, it's quite a sad story. In fact, this particular guy that I arrested a few years back, he just came out from prison for about 5 years imprisonment. So he came out and then he went to the house that he used to stay. He got a surprise, he got a shock of his life because the owner of the house is no longer the family members. So he have to pick himself up, go out and then walk around the neighborhood and sleep at the void decks, sleep at the beaches. Then suddenly one fine day he was back to his house area. They were sitting at his house, coffee shop there because they got nothing to do. Then he met with some of his old addicts, addict friends. So one of his friends invited him, why not you stay with me? So when they stay back and they stayed in the house, inside the house, there were heroin. So this guy cannot take the temptation. In fact, he was just out for about less than a month. Right? There's several stories that, this is some of the stories that I can share with you. Okay, Shannon?
Thank you so much. So for the actor, right, because they're not going to take real drugs for sure.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah, how do we make sure that their reaction is actually accurate as much as possible? And yeah, if you could also link to like, how could we persuade a person to stop taking drugs? Yeah, that would be great too.
Okay, right. To answer this question, okay, you can go to CMB's YouTube channel. There are a lot of previous videos that you can follow. So you see this one particular videos about 3 young students were in a Zoom chat. Probably they were the what is that, the scenario was they were having Zoom chat because of COVID. Then one of them says, hey, how come your room looks so smoky? So the one of the guys say, then they say, are you vaping? Then the guy say, oh no, I'm not vaping. I'm doing something more better. I am doing cannabis or I'm doing weed. So the girl say, hey, you got to be careful. That's illegal. And then the guy said, oh, why? I've checked in the internet, right? That it is okay, it's illegal. Doctors say that it can cure cancer, it can cure epilepsy. So the girl said that, oh no, this is not the correct website you should go. You should go to CMB website, which is the truth lah. So the guys, after that, the guy said, oh, look here, I am feeling something different. The walls are falling, the ceilings are falling. So that's, he portrays the effect of hallucination. Okay, that's a very good video. That's a very spot on video. So you can look at that, take inspiration on that. Again, every drugs give different kind of effect. Just like the previous question that I've just answered. Like for instance, you want to portray cannabis, he becomes sloppy. This guy, sloppy. The hair was bedraggled. Okay? He wear what is that, boxes? So in front of a camera. So it's portrayed nicely, right? Probably there are a lot many other videos, right? Or probably there's another video at MHA one, whereby this guy was taking cannabis and then start to see operation or ghosts. That's a very good one. You should look at that. Okay, all right, Shannon.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so for the video that Mr. Idrus was talking about, you can watch category 2 2020 winner, okay, for that particular video. In fact, we'll watch all the videos that they have on the YouTube channel as well. Yeah, because it's really, really good. They're all really very good. Yeah, so, and you can also get ideas from them as well, right? Okay, so I hope that we have got all the questions already, okay? So thank you so much. And we're gonna go for the QR code right now. So please remember to submit your feedback form for this particular segment. Okay, and yeah, so we're just gonna give you like 30 seconds or so to scan this QR code. Yep, just take a phone, scan QR code, yep. So this feedback form is for this particular segment, right? So it's different from the one that you actually did just now. So please do help us to fill in this one as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. And also please help me to thank Mr. Idrus by typing in TY. Thank you for Mr. Idrus. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was really good, right? Okay, so right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to watch category 2's winning entry of last year's competition from Team Tellers from Republic Polytechnic. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
I always thought drugs could help me escape. Yet, they never did. I never expected to lose you. I blame myself for letting it happen. That doesn't mean I won't try to get you back. After all, you're still my little angel. Now, I teach others what I've learned. Making a promise to believe in them as you did to me. Thank you for keeping me strong. Love, Aya.
Wow, that was such a heartwarming video, right? Now, if you want to watch these videos again, you can check out CNB's YouTube channel at cnb.drugfreesg. That's YouTube channel at cnb.drugfreesg. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you have been very motivated after watching these videos by the winners of our Drug Free SG Video Competition 2021. So we are now going to welcome our last speaker, Mr. Ding Jie, also known as DJ. So DJ is an Emmy-nominated film and television producer, filmmaker, and writer. He was in charge of both local and international projects, factual and narrative, and he will share with all of you the techniques of storytelling so you can tell stories with an impact. All right, thank you so much for being still here with us. There's a technical error that we faced just now, but we are back. So let's wait for the participants. It's slowly increasing right now. Thank you guys. Yes. You know, I think maybe the computer was on. It just okay. Wow, thank you. Okay, so we have about at least half back already. Let's just wait a little while more. You guys were connected automatically, right? Is that so? Can someone just type in the chat, take a look? Were you just connected like by itself suddenly that your Zoom appeared again? Yeah, I know, right? Yep, technical errors. Yeah, in the world of technology, this always happens. So please don't take drugs. Yeah. Yes, we didn't end the meeting. Actually, it just Zoom just suddenly restarted and rebooted by itself. We had no idea why. Yeah, so thank you. We have already 60 plus participants. Okay, let's just wait for a little while more for more to come back. Yeah, I think Zoom was afraid of Ding Jie. Yeah, because it was just right when I said, let's welcome Ding Jie. And then you were like, oh no, we're afraid of this judge. Yeah, DJ is one of the judges too, by the way. So if you have any questions later on after his presentation, remember to ask him, okay? Because he is one of the people who is in charge of grading your films and whether, you know, he's like, this is good enough. Nah, this is maybe, I'm looking for something more. Yeah, what is it that he's looking for? Later on, he will tell you, okay? So yes, okay, and let's see. Oh, okay, great. We have about 70 plus people already. Yes. Well, you're connected back on again after that. Yep. Were you disconnected automatically back on? Yeah. Oh, what's happening? No, oh no, wait, but you guys were just back on. Rejoin manually. Ah, wow. Thank you so much. Y'all were so efficient in rejoining. My goodness. I'm really impressed with all of you. Had to retype the meeting code. Oh, yep. Great. Wow. Then I'm very impressed by all of you. Yeah, to actually rejoin immediately. Yeah. The meeting ended, we had to rejoin. Yep, technical error from Zoom. Okay, so well, thank you so much for your kind understanding. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to, let's see if we can get a little bit more people to come back in before we actually welcome our lovely final speaker. One of the most important speaker, yeah, because he's one of the judges too. Yep, and he will be sharing with all of you, how do you actually tell a compelling story so that you can create the most impact in that either 1 minute advertisement, right, that you're gonna shoot, or maybe it's a short film that you're gonna shoot, that'll be in 2 minutes, right? So actually 2 minutes is very short time. Yeah, I can vouch for that myself. Film project was actually 3 minutes, and I had to really cut a lot of things. Yep, I had to really cut a lot of things. Okay, so yep, let's see. Okay, I think we have a little bit more people already. Great. Yep. Okay, yes. So meanwhile, okay, all of you are back, right? Yeah. All of you, yes. Okay, can I just check whether, yep, okay. Okay, you guys can hear, yeah, definitely you guys can hear me, and that's why you could answer me just now too, right? Okay, so we have 80 plus people already. So, all right, everyone, are you good to go? So, okay, if you are ready, okay, you're like, wow, okay, let's shake it off, man. Okay, let's shake this off right now. And we are going to welcome Ding Jie back. All right, so please help me once again to welcome Ding Jie by typing in DJ in the house. Let's welcome DJ. Type in DJ right now. DJ. Yay!
Okay, so good morning everyone. Thank you for joining me today on Saturday. So my name is DJ for short. I'm going to be sharing about storytelling, how storytelling techniques. I'm going to be sharing about processes that I use myself at work. And hopefully through the sharing session today, you also get information that will help you on your filmmaking journey for this filmmaking competition. So we are going to start with the creative process of brainstorming. And this is actually slightly related to what Mr. Jerome was already sharing just now, where the brainstorming session takes place in the pre-production phase of the filmmaking. I think it's going to sound a bit counterintuitive, but what I actually advise is that because I know that the competition has a team that you're all given, but rather than trying to grow a story out of team, what I would suggest is that you use the brainstorming session. Think about stories that you are interested in, think about stories you want to tell, and then when you have a list of stories that you have come up with, then you can look at which one fits the theme better. And I think the very important part of this process is trying to find a story that you want to tell and you feel interested in telling. Next one. And I think filmmaking generally is it's really a lot about collaboration. And one thing that I think we noted last year was that we actually thought that the film entries from the younger participants was actually better. And I think one of the reasons why that happened was because our younger participants, they were not so much affected by the lockdown measures. They were still seeing each other. They had the value of the face-to-face meetings, and it was just it's really a lot easier to collaborate and think of stories when you are all face to face. And I think our older participants did not have that luxury because they were doing home-based learning, they could not see each other. So please take advantage of the creative energy that you can foster when you are all in the same room. And one of the ways that next slide, please. One of the ways that I will actually say, okay, this is actually one of the ways that I do my brainstorming process. So very often, sometimes, apart from asking ourselves what are the story we want to tell, we would also go look out for resources to look at things that we might like or we might not like. So for example, in one of the last films that I worked on, we actually took out the time to look at many different shows that was related to our story. If there was something that we liked, we would try to identify what we liked and how we could use certain techniques or processes. And if it was something that we felt didn't look so well, we would ask ourselves why we think that happened. And we would try to avoid those mistakes ourselves. So I think YouTube is always a fantastic resource. And I'm just going to show everyone a video that we found on YouTube. I think it's perfectly fine to go on YouTube to look for ideas. So let's show them a video from YouTube. Okay, so just to emphasize one more time on the brainstorming process, right? So this is a phase where you are trying to find out what are the stories you want to tell. It doesn't hurt to consider every kind of idea. It doesn't hurt to go on the internet for all kinds of resources. And once you perhaps have a few, only then you start to eliminate and try to find out what is the one story you want to focus on for the purpose of this competition. So for this year, as always, we have our category 1 and 2. So for the category 1 competition, we have the 12 to 16-year-old participants where your team is there to care. For the category 2, is for our 17 to 25 years old participants, and your team is stronger together. You have the choice of picking 2 types of submission. One is a film that is around 2 minutes long, or you have the choice of making an advertisement that is around 60 seconds. And for both durations, it does not include your credits. This is a bit more of a recommendation than a guideline. If you think your story can be longer or shorter, go ahead. But once again, the general recommended duration is either a 2-minute film or 60 seconds advertisement. So some 2 very important processes in the storytelling phase is the concept and your your storyboard. And the first one is identifying what is the purpose of your story. So this is very helpful because if you have a very clear idea of what your story is, it will always guide you very clearly as you go along your planning, even when you are in production, even when you're in post-production. So to give an example, right? For example, if you have seen The Mandalorian, the story in Mandalorian is one person's quest to return Grogu back to his kind, and you can see that this story is always very consistent through the series. And if you are able to very clearly identify your story into 1 or 2 lines, this will always help you as you are going along your filmmaking journey. And of course, what's also very important is that you need to consider your the attention of your audience. So, like I mentioned just now already, we are looking for films that are around 2 minutes long, or you're making a 60 seconds advertisement. A very important concept, right, is that very often, we use this term called emotional attachment. The problem we find that for a lot of people, and what makes sometimes one film better than other, is if the filmmaker understands when to let go of this emotional attachment. Sometimes when you are there filming, it feels like every shot is important. It feels like everything that you have filmed, every part of the story is important. But one of the most difficult things to do is to be honest and asking yourself what is better for the story. Is it better to drop something and then therefore your story becomes more streamlined and it's easier to keep someone's attention? So that's something very important to always keep in mind. And so another 2 more steps are very important is, and these are also mentioned by Mr. Jones just now earlier. So when you have your scenes, so this part is where you are doing your planning. So let's say you have you know what's the story you want to tell. It is very important for you to document all of this. For example, what are the scenes that you want to have, what are the shots, or at the very least, if there is a very important shot, make sure you include that in your planning. What are the actions that's happening, what's happening in the dialogue. I feel that for fresh filmmakers, there is no need for you to find out how exactly it is done professionally and you do that according to professional standards. But I think most minimally, you should at least document them down on the document of sorts. This will serve as a communication tool as well, because then everyone on the team knows what has to be shot, what are the scenes. Like truly, it's actually a waste, and it even happens on a professional level, okay, where in the pre-production phase, perhaps people were a bit more sloppy, and you forget to pick up this shot or that shot, and it's just truly a waste of resource if you have to set up a shoot again because you forgot something. The reality is you should be documenting this, so it almost becomes like a checklist, if you will, when you are on set. These are the important lines, these are important shots, have you got it or not? And last but not the least is the storyboarding. And I think very hard about how to describe the storyboarding process, especially for our fresh filmmakers. Because I also remember myself when I was a younger filmmaker, right? And the storyboarding process tends to be one that can be very difficult. And I think what is important for everyone to realize, right, the purpose of this is not so that you can draw manga level scenes shot by shot for your film. This is a communication tool. You could be drawing stick figures, and you can see in this slide where under every picture there are lines. So what you could be doing is that you could be perhaps drawing a generic scene, and then you have lines underneath, and you can be describing what is happening in the scene. And perhaps what you need to do is that and if there's a very important shot, of course you will include it in the storyboard, and that's how everyone knows how important something is. Therefore, you know that you have to pick it up. So I just emphasize once again that there is no need to draw very elaborate art in this process. You have to be treating this as a form of communication, so that everyone on the team knows how the film is flowing, scene by scene, and they know within the scenes what's happening and what are the important shots. Okay, so this is the judging criteria, and this is this is actually the most important takeaway I would like everyone to have from this. Okay, I'm sure all of you can read the numbers as well. Okay, you have seen the winners of the films from last year through this session already, and those two films were also very well shot. But the reality was that we did not reward the films just because of the camera work or cinematography. You can see that is just 10%. The reality is also that the two winners, they had a complete package. They were able to tell the story in a very creative way, and the anti-drug team was very clear, which you can see are the most two important concepts. What is really important for us is that, and I think what we're trying to show through this judging criteria is that we are willing to reward creativity rather than overall technicals. I remember there was one, there's actually a film that runs out. We rated it very highly. I don't remember if that film ended up being one of the runner-ups and walked away with the cash prize. But I remember that film, right, even though it wasn't very well shot, that it was suffering a bit technically, but I rated it very highly because it was very creative. What they did in that film was that they presented someone's journey as a drug abuser in the form of a role-playing game. And so when this person was going to different places and making decisions that he should not make, they presented it as if it was a game, and that to me was very creative, and we rewarded the film that way. And also just some food for thought, and I don't want to end up influencing the kind of films that people make. But I think last year what was also quite prominent was that a lot of filmmakers would submit drama sketches where they would then communicate a message that the worst thing that could happen to them if they take drugs was that they will fail their exams. I'm not saying that you can't make films that way, but I think the reality is also that if you are going to do that, it will be a bit harder to stand out, because chances are someone else is going to do that also. But if you can do that in a very creative way, I would say go ahead. Okay, so mind mapping. Mind mapping is something that we do when we are doing brainstorming in the pre-production stage, but it doesn't quite need to be a very beautiful, elaborate map, because this doesn't get presented to anyone. And in reality, sometimes it actually resembles a bit more of a doodling phase than a mind mapping one. So what happens at this phase, right? Okay, what happens at this phase, right? Perhaps when you are doing your brainstorming, you're going on YouTube, you're watching whatever that you think has caught your eye, it's something that you want to do. You can just put down some keywords to guide your brainstorming process. For example, it could be maybe action, it could be a comedy. Perhaps you want the story to take place in, for example, a spaceship. And these are words that you can, and if these are keywords that you put down, and over a few more meetings, you remember these were the things that excited you, that made you interested in guiding the story that you want to make. And through your meetings, you can keep revising this to try to shape a final story that you can make for the film. So once again, we come back to the storyboard, and as you can see here, once again, right, the storyboard is really more of a communication tool. You can see here that the drawings here are not that elaborate, and you can even be less complex if you want to. It can be stick figures if that's the best you can manage. I think that is perfectly fine. But I think what is more important is that you make use of this. You are able to describe the things that you want to achieve. Like for example, you can see that there are lines below every panel, and that is what you can use to communicate what you can achieve. Okay, so storytelling in 4 Ps. We have purpose, people, place, and plot. And okay, this is what we call the 3-act structure. This is one of the most common storytelling acts that we use at work. Of course, there are many different ones. For those of you who consume a lot of pop culture, you will know what I mean. But just to help everyone, and I think it's the most basic, and this is a classic, that that always works. So this is what we call the 3-act structure. We always have so we always start off by the exposition, meaning to say we introduce our protagonist, the hero of our film, and then we clearly, and as part of the exposition phase, we explain what are the obstacles in his journey. So, and then you have so through the film, right, and the rising action is how he tries to overcome the obstacles in his path. And when you reach and of course the film reaches climax, and afterwards you give an ending to your film. And this film can be happy ending, it can be a sad ending, it can be whatever you want. I don't think we are rewarding any particular kind of endings here. But once again, this is the 3-act structure. We call it the beginning, the middle, the end. And that's an example of a plot structure you can use to shape your brainstorming process. And because you are telling the story over 2 minutes or some people say 60 seconds, right? What is a lot more important is to understand that for something this short, simple is always better. The story should be uncomplicated. It should not be overly complicated that you can't tell it over 2 minutes or around there. Maybe your film is a bit longer, a bit shorter, but it shouldn't drag out your duration far too long. And another thing that I would advise is that, okay, when we say continually revisit your edits, right? I feel like the reality is that a lot of people were making their films and probably finishing just before the submission deadline. But what's important about this process is that you should always be sort of reviewing your film in the sense that if you remember earlier where we spoke about keeping your audience attention, you should be able to at least review and ask yourself honestly if you are keeping the things that you need, and if you are able to drop things that you don't actually need to keep your audience attention, because you have to value their time. So, okay, so production management is also things that are covered by Mr. Jerome still just now. And I think what's very important for me to emphasize here is that there is sort of no need for you to do this on a professional level with professional standards. I think what is important is that when you have your short list, you should list everything out, and then you use it to plan across what you're going to do in your filming session. I think there's some things that I think are important to take note. Please don't forget to schedule for your prep time, meaning to say, obviously your day don't start immediately with a shoot. The reality is that your day starts to set up. That usually could take between 1 hour to 2 hours. There's just no way you could just walk in and start shooting, because people need time to warm up, set up, and why this is important, right? Is because you need some kind of a plan to know what's happening with your day. For example, and I think Mr. Jones also covered that just now. You need to do this because firstly, it leads to a more efficient planning. You are able to, for example, group by location, for example. And with this as a guide, right? Let's say if you're overrunning, you know how much you're overrunning by, and you know that perhaps, and you are able to make decisions. So perhaps if you know that you're overrunning by 2 hours and you are running out of daylight to shoot a daytime scene, you are able to make better educated decisions. For example, you just want to shoot the next day instead. So emotions are a very important part of storytelling. Okay, I think the most important concept here I actually want to speak a bit about is the show not tell, for a few reasons. This is because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that writing dialogue is actually something that is truly very difficult to do. And yet at the same time, right, I think effective storytelling always comes from the characters showing their emotions, being able to make use of certain actions to portray certain emotions, rather than them sort of conveying what they are feeling through dialogue. And just something for everyone to think about. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Pokemon, and it's very interesting, right? Because you have one character who talks and the other one who doesn't. But I think if you watch the anime, it's always very clear that the two characters speak for each other. And we know that because of the way the characters interact, and because of the way the characters do things for one another. So here are also four very important creative elements. So we have colors, music, talent, script. Okay, so one of the more important points, right, is your music. I think the very important takeaway from music, right, is that you need to use music very tactically. By that I mean, very often, I think sometimes people make the mistake, they start a film with music, but the reality is that you need the music to underscore key moments. If you're going to be watching a film or a Netflix series and you pay attention to it, very often the music only comes in when there's a need for a dramatic shift or when a key character comes in. And I also want to emphasize a bit on talent, because what I also want everyone to sort of understand is that filmmaking is truly a very collaborative process. You could have a story, but sometimes it's also important to let your talent come in with certain ideas that could help your story. And it comes back to what I mentioned earlier about production management. So for example, if you have a certain idea you wanted to execute, and perhaps and if you were to do your production management, and let's say you are able to tell that, for example, you have 2 hours more before you go to the next location. Perhaps if your talent has some other suggestions they'd like to try, and there's time, I would say why not. And of course, the most emotional scripts always come from the best authentic stories. I think that's always true. So take what you will from that. But like I said, once again, I think the most important thing is to be making stories that you want to tell, and you know that you will enjoy the process of making. Oh, and that was the last slide. Thank you so much, and I hand the floor back to Shannon.
Thank you so much, DJ. All right, everyone, how was that? Did you get a lot of useful insights? I certainly did. So there's really so much that goes on behind a good storyline. And of course, it's really like what 30 minutes that DJ has to share with all of you. There's really a lot more that there is to storytelling as well, right? So now is your time to ask any questions for DJ. Any questions? Any questions? Let's see. Okay, let's scroll. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, still trying to formulate questions for DJ right now. So DJ really is an awesome filmmaker as well, together with Jerome also. So really, if you have any questions, now is the best time to catch them while they are live in this virtual session, right? So any questions that you want to ask, get up close and personal with them. You can ask them any questions. Yeah, except for asking them for their phone numbers, please. Yeah. So any questions that you may wish to ask? Any questions? Let's see. Can we invite other people to join the video? Like, you mean in terms of acting, or maybe in terms of team members? Could you clarify a little bit more on that? To join what? Is it the cast or the crew? Yep. You might need to put to everyone. Yes. Okay, so in terms of acting.
I find it very interesting to use the word invite. I mean, that's of course, and of course, like Mr. Jerome was sharing a lot earlier, if you invite, I have no idea what's the context of inviting someone, but if you do, please make sure that they are covered by a personal release form or talent release form.
Yep. Okay, so basically you would engage them, as talents, like to join you as actors, right? So you could be asking your friends, or your relatives, your family members maybe, or if you really have the budget, you can hire professionals too, right? Like me, yeah. But most of the time, I would say from all the entries that I've seen, right? Yeah, just using their friends. So just ask your friend, hey, you want to come, and have fun together or not? Help me act in my film. Yeah. So yeah, that's totally fine. Okay. So any other questions that you may have? Any other questions? So maybe while we wait for more questions to come in, while they formulate their questions, right? Maybe DJ, I'm going to ask you, how long do you take to shoot a 1 minute film?
How long do I need? The last time I had to shoot a 1 minute
Just
film,
the shoot itself, not the pre
just
and
the
the post.
shoot itself. The last time I did it, it was in 48 hours. I took 2 days to shoot something like that. But I think the reality is that, well, it really depends on what they are filming, the complexity of the shots that they want. Like I also shot 10-minute films in 3 days. So I think it's just, it really depends on them being honest about what they need to do and the time they have to achieve what they like to tell.
Right. So in one day, right, that's like what, an 8-hour shoot or 12 hours shoot, or how long is that?
Usually I operate off 10-hour days.
Oh, 10 hours shoot day. Right. So that includes the setting up as well and the tearing down too, right? Cool. Okay. So do be prepared for the actual days as well. And you know, me coming from I think the talents, okay, the cast point of view, I'll say please treat your talents well too, you know, like have food and drinks ready for them too, because if they are hungry, you know what, you're not going to get good performances from them. Yeah, they're going to be like, oh, I'm very tired, I cannot act, I didn't cry, I cannot cry, or you know, yeah, so do treat your talents well too, because that's very important. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions? No questions? We've got an Emmy-nominated filmmaker over here. This is your time, guys, to really just, you know, dig into their brains. Yeah, any questions that you want to ask? How many of you are first-time filmmakers? Like you have never, ever created a film before? If you are, maybe just type 1 if you're a first-time filmmaker. If you have created like a few films already, short films, advertisements, whatever it may be, then you can just type in like the number of, you know, films that you've created. Oh, we have quite a few. First-time filmmaker, never ever filmed but edited before. Oh, cool. Yeah, editing is tough. I salute you. Like, I dislike editing. But you know, I've got friends who really love editing. So, you know, everyone has different jam, right? 1, 1, 2, -1. That's same here as -1. So cute, very creative. I like that. Yeah. Okay. What was the Emmy for?
The Emmy was for short form series called People Like Us. That was it was shot in Singapore and it was delivered on a YouTube platform.
Cool. So if you want to watch that, where can we watch that?
The problem is that for a lot of these shows that go on to the premium competitions, right, very often we need to take it offline, and that's how we make it exclusive to these competitions. That's the problem sometimes.
Oh no, okay, so but yeah, definitely maybe in future we hope that it will be out and we can all watch it as well. Okay, so it is a lot of first-time filmmakers. So meanwhile, please keep your questions coming, okay? And so at the same time, maybe DJ, I would like to ask you any advice you have for first-time filmmakers. What do they most need to, you know, look out for?
I think for that, what I really want to say is just to enjoy the process of making the film. I think this is something that applies even for a lot of professional filmmakers. Don't get too stressed and don't get too caught up in the technicals of finding a camera, learning how to operate this. Just try to understand that. Just try to go in with an open mind and try to enjoy the process of making your film. And I think all be fine. I think really the purpose of this film competition is to encourage everyone's creativity. It's not as if we are looking out for any particular film.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, the key thing really is to enjoy whatever that you guys are doing, right? So winning or not is an extra bonus. Of course, if you win, that's perfect, that's great, right? But if you don't win, you know what? There's always the next time. There's always more films, more stories to tell. Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, right? Any questions? Any other questions that you guys may have? Wow, everyone's like very shy. They're all starstruck by things here already. Like, Emmy nominated filmmaker. Any questions? Any questions? No questions. Danny has no questions. The rest of you, any questions? Maybe just one last question, maybe? One final question, anyone? Okay, now we have talked a lot about, you know, what we should do, all the successes, that these filmmakers have, right? How about, Dingjie, what was the worst thing that ever happened to you, either on set or maybe post or pre-production, or in your filmmaking career? Yeah, what was the worst, most terrible, like most horrible thing that ever happened?
It feels very intense for just before lunchtime, but I guess like the worst thing that's really happened was being told that my ideas was not good enough. I went through that phase, and it was a very strange thing to say, because I remember I actually almost gave up my career as a filmmaker over this, and it was very interesting because for this particular story, right, that I was told was not good enough by a lot of people. This film is actually now in a competition to compete at the Academy Awards next year. So I think, well, once again, just to emphasize to everyone, it doesn't matter if you win or not. If it's a story that you want to tell, go ahead and do it.
Wow, I love that. I love that. If it's a story that you want to tell, you go ahead and do it. Don't care what people say. Yes, okay. So, what are some beginner mistakes we should keep in mind? Great question.
I think it's very interesting because there's a sort of a place where where I think the most common beginner mistakes are either you underthink or you overthink it. So when I say underthink, right, this means they don't do the due process, they don't plan their production, and when they're on set, they forget about this or that. But I also know that on the flip side, sometimes people worry a little bit too much, and they get very caught. They feel overly stressed by something they should really enjoy doing. So, but I was listening when Mr. Jerome was speaking just now. I truly feel that if you were to follow what he said about planning, I think you're perfectly fine. And the recording will be shared anyway, so feel free to revisit and think about what you need to do when you are planning the production for the film.
Great, thank you. Any last question, final question before we end off? Final question, or forever hold your peace? Yeah, Aria very cute. Says I don't know what to ask.
I don't know. Maybe they just want to go for lunch.
Really? No more questions? This is it, yeah? This is it, yeah? No more questions that you want to ask our Emmy-nominated filmmaker over here? Okay, I really love what he said, and when he mentioned about how actually he had ideas that people said, nah, it's crap. Yeah, so don't be afraid and don't feel discouraged. Yeah, if somebody tells you, I think your story is terrible. Yeah, no, I cannot make it one. Like, hey, these people don't know better, and you never know, right? Until you actually shoot your film, post it, and really get real feedback from the masses. There will always be people who will appreciate what you share. You can't please every single one, honestly. So, okay, just keep out all the negative feedback that you may receive and focus on your journey as a new filmmaker, as an ongoing filmmaker. All right, so I want to say thank you so much for being with us. We have now come to the end of our workshop already. If you still have any burning questions, don't worry. Drop us an email at info@drugfreesg.com, and that's info@drugfreesg.com. So before we end off, okay, we'd like everyone to turn on your camera, please. We can take a group photograph. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, are we ready? Ready? I'm gonna count down. Okay, we're gonna do a screenshot, yeah? And 1, 2, 3. DrugFreeSG. Hold it there, hold it there, hold it there. Hold it there. Going to the second page right now. All right, hold it there. And 1, 2, 3. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, all good. Thank you all so much. Give yourself a thumbs up, okay, for yourself. All our lovely participants, thank you very much for coming to DrugFreeSG Video Competition 2022 virtual workshop. We hope that the session has been really useful to you, and we definitely look forward to all your wonderful video entries very soon. So I'll see all of you at the competition. We'll see you. Bye-bye.